All right, curiosity has overcome me. I want to start tearing down this motor and take a little peek inside, see what pistons we got, what kind of cylinder heads, and get an idea of what it's going to take to get a little more horsepower out of this motor. So, here we go with that. Okay, let's get this carb off of here. Okay, there we go. Toe. And fuel pump. Okay. Yep. Distributor's gonna be stuck. Alright. Came out. That's awesome. Okay. Now, miscellaneous brackets. See, get this thing out of here. That's pretty goobered up. Maybe we can get this one. I need a flat screwdriver or a pick tool to dig out the goo around these. Alright, yeah, stuck in the socket, but it came out. Whoa, that was in there. Okay. Ah, it came off. Now it comes off. Got everything unbolted. Let's see if we can pry this intake off. Okay. Well, wasn't stuck as bad as I thought it would be. So let me get this up out of here. All right. There we go.
Yeah, it's kind of dirty.
Yeah.
Lots of junk in there.
Can pull the valley pan off, but I'm curious to get one of these heads off. So, here we go with that. This heavy. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, those are the huge chambers. Yeah, it's a 77, just as we expected. 6X something, the rest is corroded away. You can see right here, it might be a 4, I don't know, it's 6X something, which means either 100cc or 124, which is pretty lame. But, well, not even flat top pistons, they got relieved. So, I think we're gonna have to do a little upgrading. All right, now that I got both of these heads off, this one had 4 broke off exhaust bolts. Tried to weld the nut on method and they just keep breaking off. I got about 20 of them in there that were unsuccessful, so I ended up drilling them out, running a tap through and saving the threads, and getting ready to put that one in the parts washer, get it all cleaned up. But I got the other one over here and it ended up having just 2 broke off bolts. So I've got them drilled out and I just got to run a small burr through there, clean out a little bit more, and go ahead and run the tap through there. Then we can get these cleaned up in the parts washer. They're pretty caked. Yeah, it's so satisfying getting all that crud off of there and making them look brand new. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those threads fixed up. Got some good threads in here, and I always like to take about a 1/4 inch bit, drill right down through the center, and then take a little itty bitty burr and ream it out until you just start to see the threads, just barely. Then you can go in there with a tap and clean out all that old junk and able to save these heads. So now we're gonna go ahead and get these cleaned up, pull the valves out of them, see what shape they're in, see if we can't rescue these original heads. Alright, after a lot of scraping and a little bit of oven cleaner and wire wheeling, these heads are starting to actually look like heads instead of being like half-inch of crap on them. Yeah, you couldn't hardly even see nothing over here before, but they're coming out pretty clean. Timing cover, looking pretty good.
Yeah, that is looking good.
Scrape a little more gas off of it, but the half-inch of crap that was on there came off. Still trying to get all the little nooks and crannies clean. But yeah, it looks like a lot of it came off on me, but that's okay. You know, we can wash that. So, we'll get these all cleaned up and paint them Pontiac green, I guess. Or maybe it's Pontiac blue. That color right there. Yeah, whatever that is. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Alrighty. Gonna get the rest of these cleaned up. I've got the oil pan out there scraping it off because it was driving me nuts. It was a half-inch of crud on it. But it's starting to come clean with a little scraping and a little wire wheeling. We'll get that thrown in here and get it real clean. So, got some parts on order and we'll be showing them to you next when they come in. Alright, got my heads off and fairly well cleaned up. And we're just going to go ahead and pull the valves out and clean them up a little bit more so you can take them to the machine shop and have them magnafluxed. Want to do that first before we do anything else. And an old mechanic strip or trick is if you want to check your valves, suppose you were just going to reuse these heads, you can take a feeler gauge like the thinnest one you got in your set and run it around these valves to see if any of them are slightly bent or burnt. And I've done that on all these, so they must be all straight and none of them burnt. So that's kind of a little trick you can do if you're going to be cheap and just throw them back on. But we're going to have these reworked and really cleaned up in the vat and put some new valve springs in. I always hate to break a valve spring and tear things up, so we're going to go ahead and pull these valves out now. Well, so far there's quite a bit of valve left there to grind these. I think they'll grind out pretty nice, and the seats don't look too bad. Same with the exhaust, doesn't look like it's ever been worked on, so we'll have to check out the rest of them, see how they turn out. Alrighty, got them all loose. And I got these very well cleaned up. The carbon on there was pretty hard, but they cleaned up pretty decent. Got the chamber cleaned out. Just got to get the rest of these done. Clean them up a little bit more. Take them down to the machine shop and see what they say about maybe cracks. But they don't, you can't see them. When they magnaflux them, you'll be looking right there and all of a sudden that magnaflux will go right there and you don't even see it until they magnaflux them. So, we will find out. Alright, I had to find some super fine threaded 5/16 bolts, 28 thread, this balancer bolt loose. Right. Now, get this pulley off. Of course it's going to be stuck. Have to beat it. Yeah. Fine. Yeah. Looks like we're going to have to modify this. Oh. Hey, how about that? There isn't even a press fit. Alrighty then. That's awesome. Alright, let's see if we can get this timer go off here. See, this thing is corroded out. No, I'll be damned. It is not that bad. Well, we did have antifreeze in this motor when we got it, so I think that's what saved it. Yeah, we might just go ahead and clean this up real good and reuse it. Of course, it's filthy, but the smell ain't too bad. Well, we'll see. Okay, this oil pan's driving me nuts. It's so caked with crud. I gotta get it off of there and clean it. So here we go with that. Okay, surprisingly, it's not that bad inside. All the cakes of crap are on the outside. Well, that's a good thing. Only a tiny bit of sludge. Man, look at it. That's a clean motor for that many years. Alrighty then. Alright, getting the motor tore down here. Got a couple of the pistons out. And now if you take these to a machine shop to get the wrist pins pushed out, and probably want $100 or more. So I'm taking the flapper disc and sanding away a little bit there to give me clearance for this ball joint tool. Put the impact on it and drive out that wrist pin. Save a couple bucks disassembling the pistons, because the pistons we got for this are going to give us a little more horsepower. Because these here, yeah, 1977, super low compression. And with the heads being the larger chamber, well, it just kind of sucks. So here we go. We're going to get these wrist pins out of here. Alright, there you have it. 8 rods pressed out on a budget. And I had these two soaking in the solvent. Starting to come pretty clean. But I think I'll get them all in the solvent, soaking, and get them cleaned up. And the ball joint tool that I was using, you can rent it from the auto parts store, any auto parts store, free rental. If you ever want to press some pistons off. Takes a little bit of work, but hey, can save a couple bucks. So I'll move on to other stuff. Alrighty, I've got all of my rods out of the solvent dip and got them all cleaned up and dried. They come out pretty clean. And what I'm going to do is I have this gigantic Ziploc baggie. I'm going to soak them down with WD, and hopefully that'll keep them from flash rusting, because WD-40 stands for water displacement. So I'm going to go ahead and get these soaked down and get them to where when we're ready for them, they won't be all rusty. Cool. All right, here we go with that. All right, got all the rods packed away and nice and slimy, oily. So now I gotta finish tearing down the rest of the block and do some scrubbing and cleaning on it. I like to get them fairly clean, so when you send it to the machine shop, they don't fill their vatting machine full of, you know, cakes of oil. So I'm gonna have to get this thing over here and rolled out to where we can work on it and finish pulling the crank and the cam and punch out the freeze plugs, get it all scrubbed down and cleaned up. So here we go with that. We got her all tore down, and she was having a little bit of camshaft problems. That lifter right there is mushroom, don't want to come out, so we can poke it out the other way. And if you look carefully, this is what the lobe is supposed to look like, but this one is kind of losing its bump. So that will put it down a little on horsepower. And this one here. And that one. Come on back here. And, yeah, that one's not too bad. Either that one. But a lot of them are really losing their bumps. Supposed to look like that. But some of them ain't. That's why we're going back with a roller camshaft. I'm working out, trying to get a pretty good deal on one. And got all our main caps out. All our bearings. Look like they're in good shape. The rods and the mains are all standard. Of course, the chain was a little sloppy. And as far as the crankshaft goes, it looks like it might just polish out. And I found in my experience that sometimes a crankshaft that's never been tore up, well, it still has the factory hardening on it. Once they're ground 10, 20, 30 under, they lose that hardened surface. So sometimes when you have a motor that's in pretty good shape and you polish the crank, go back with standard bearings, they just seem to hold oil pressure really good and run smoother. There's just something about it, you know. But we'll run this down to the machine shop and let them polish it. We'll get it cleaned up, and then once the block is poured out, we got 30 over pistons that are going to give us a little bit more horsepower. And of course, we're not going to go back with the rope seal. We're going to use the upgraded one. So those rope seals always just seem to put the crank in a bind, and it's tough on the starter. So we're going to go ahead and get this dude cleaned up. I like using oven cleaner. Some people say it doesn't work, but if you live in North Dakota and it's the middle of the winter, now it doesn't work. This is South Mississippi and it's 90 degrees and we're in the sun. And it works pretty damn good. So, I'm gonna let this soak in a little bit. Wash it down with some brake parts cleaner. And this will start coming pretty clean. Well, after scraping off a ½ inch of crud, finally got the oil pan clean. Wanted to go ahead and get some paint on it so we don't get rust. All right. Well, after 2 coats of primer and 2 coats of Pontiac blue, it actually looks pretty decent. A hell of a lot better than it did with ½ inch of crap on it. So, now all we got to do is clean the rest of the motor. Alright, for the Bass stove, I'd say 7 or 8 months since we got the Firebird. We've been collecting up engine parts in the anticipation that we're going to rebuild it. And we've got some of the stuff. Of course, we got the bearings and stuff on order. These pistons are going to be what's going to make a lot of the difference. Oh, there goes the wrist pin. But they are the high domed that will make up for those low compression heads somewhat, and that'll give us a little more oomph. And of course, we've got the roller cam, because we don't want to go through all of the flat tappet grind up the lifters and all that. This is the Comp Cam's thumper, which should still be streetable. And we got the roller lifters. And of course, everything you see here, we got the absolute best deal that we could. And this is going to help us avoid the grind up the cam scenario. We got our timing set. And another thing I always like to do, these are the rocker nuts. And of course they are jam nuts. And when you reuse the old ones, you just might have one of them worthless and a push rod pop out, that kind of thing. And a friend of ours ordered one of these, and they sent them too. So it's a stainless steel separator plate for the water pump, so that's going to be awesome. And of course, we've got the full gasket set, and this rope seal we're not going to reuse. We're going to get the two-piece, regular seal, and unfortunately they don't come with them. Everything for Pontiac is just more expensive. That rear two-piece seal is like 50 bucks even on eBay, and I've been looking and looking, and I just can't find any cheaper than that. But I'm still looking around. Of course, we got our oil pan cleaned up and painted. The heads are in the machine shop, and they'll probably be there for a little while, but once they come back and we get the block board out, cam bearings and whatnot, then we're going to be doing a part 2 of our quest for more horsepower. So that'll be about the end of this video, and stay tuned for whenever we get the machine shop stuff back, and we'll be putting it all back together.